Call the meeting order. Roll call.
Okay, Mayor Westgard,
Yes.
Moller,
Yes.
Stankin,
Yes.
Waltman, Reese.
Yes.
Okay, no public forum. Consent agenda, any additions or corrections? Motion to approve?
So
Okay.
moved.
Just one thing on that, you see the several listings for bags tournaments for, that one's for the bar. Laney's was in to see me again today and looking at a couple other dates of June 8th and August 15th. If we could throw those on there, I would appreciate that, June 8th and August 15th.
Motion to approve.
Roll call.
Moller,
Yes.
Waltman,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Stankin.
Yes.
We're gonna open the public hearing on the proposed amendment of the budget.
Alrighty, for the council, I'd call your attention to page 4 in the packet. This is the listing of the changes in revenues and then also in expenses. So, taking a look at any of the big ones, looking on intergovernmental, as revenues being down 310, that's the timing of the SRF sponsored project. That we haven't gotten into that yet, but we had budgeted to receive that. Although we do have some increased electric and sewer customer revenues also. Other than that, the other real big thing is we have that listed as other financing sources. Well, that's the SRF loan for the sewer. Again, we just haven't drawn as much as we anticipated, so it's just a matter of timing. Taking a look at the expenditure side of things, Public Works, it's $25,000 increased the budget, and that's due to a street project. $15,000 increase there, and that's due to our special projects account. On health and social, excuse me, which one? Park, culture and recreation, it's down $35,000, and that's because we did not do that Camp Crescent project where we had budgeted for that. Community and economic development's up $135,000. That is the Raritan cleanup, and then also the 408 Main. General government's up $10,000. It's legal services and that High Street surveying. Capital projects, you see is down. Again, this has to do with not doing a couple of the projects. It's the fish barrier and the Camp Crescent drainage project. But we did add some other things in, like the shelter house and the library design. Those things. But the big one again is timing on business types and enterprises. That's our utility accounts. So it's the timing of the lagoon project, where again we just haven't we had spent that much more. So anyway, in total, you can see that the total expenses and transfers out $1.7 million, as opposed to the total revenues of $1.08 million. Any questions?
Like the fish barrier, the reason they haven't started on that, or aren't they going to? Or?
They are. It's and that actually is then planned for construction this fall.
Okay.
So they're getting their plans already with the idea of letting bids on that during the summertime
I see.
to look for a
I had somebody
fall
ask me
construction.
about that, and I just,
Yep.
I told them it was gonna get done, and I thought that was,
Yep.
for sure.
Anybody have any questions in the public hearing? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Resolution 1920 is to amend the budget. So have that motion? Second.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Bolton,
Yes.
Stanky,
Yes.
Moller,
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing on the zoning change for 2 parcels of land, 370 and 390 Sunset Drive.
Okay, so call the council's attention to, let's just take a look at page number 9. So that aerial photograph, just to identify those 2 parcels, really that we're talking about. It's the parcels that are outlined in yellow. It's kind of the south part of the old, what had been the old East End restaurant parking lot area. So the one with the number in it, 81103, to the left of that, Mark Bogue, and they're the owners of that parcel, and then they're also the owners of the one that has the 81-103 in it. The intention then would be to just be able to have that one parcel that goes all the way out to the street. Rick Frank is the other property owner, who's requesting this change. And he also has a cabin there. His cabin is the one that ends in 6007. So the corners of his property would then touch. But the idea would be to change that again to Lakeshore Residential. Again, for Mark, it helps in creating that parcel. And Rick is just looking at continuing to have it as a residential use.
Do you have any input on the public hearing?
Mark is here. Don't
Mark, do you want to say anything?
Well, I would appreciate it. I came to the meeting the other night, no one spoke out against it at that time, and if the two lots that are on the lake were basically landlocked, since we acquired the other property, I wanna make it one big property, and now that land can have access all the way out to the street, and make it quite a nice home lot, and that would be the plan. So they were just, was my recommendation to try to get that all zoned exactly the same, even though we could still use it, even if it wasn't changed. I think the best thing, since it's gonna be all one portion lot, is to have it, and that was my lawyer's recommendation too, to have it put together back to LR, which is, a lot of the surrounding areas, that's the community area over there. So thank you for considering that.
You need a motion to approve?
No, not yet. Close the public hearing, now we do.
Motion to approve.
Second, roll call.
Muller,
Yes.
Boltman,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Stankin.
Yes.
You're good to go, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, Murray Engineering, this should be fun.
All right, as you know, several of those panels have cracked. We're up to 84, I believe. We received a letter from the city's attorney, saying that the city expects us to remedy this situation with no additional cost to the city. So that's what we have attempted to do here recently. We have contacted the Iowa Paving Association and had them come and look at the panels. After all that is said and done, there is this drawing that's in your packet that has areas listed. The handwritten notes are notes that Scott has put on.
Those are mine, yeah, if they're blue handwritten notes there, that's
Blue
fine.
handwritten notes are from Scott. The other notes are basically from a report that was completed by the Iowa Paving Association, where they listed cracks that were high priority and cracks that they listed as low priority. It was their opinion that approximately 8 of those panels were bad enough that they needed to be replaced. The rest were not structurally bad enough or deficient enough, in their opinion, to be replaced. We then looked at those panels and added an additional 16 panels. It was our opinion that the additional 16 panels needed to be replaced. We then wrote a letter, it was actually an email, to the contractor, asking them if they would consider that as settlement of completion of this work. They have since subsequently refused that, basically came back and said that they want to replace all of them and have a third of the cost paid by them, a third of the cost paid by Murray Engineering, and a third of the cost paid by the city. That's, if that were to happen, they'd make money on it. They're trying to sell their product, is what they're trying to do. It's our opinion and the Paving Association's opinion that we now go back, I shouldn't speak for the Paving Association. It's our opinion now that we go back against their bond and contact their bonding attorney and say that we believe that 24 of these panels need to be replaced and the rest of them need to be routed and sealed in place. at this point, Scott has asked us to come to the meeting, and here we are reporting where we sit at this point.
I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
First thing of all is, I understand you had a meeting with a contractor, you and them.
It was us and the contractor and the paving association. We attempted to invite Scott along to that meeting. For some reason, it did not go through email correctly, and Scott did not receive notification of it.
So didn't you think that was a little strange that we didn't?
I did. I thought that was strange, but
You're 3 blocks away. Why didn't you come here and find out what was going on?
well, it was, as I said, we invited, it was
I-
not
yeah,
required.
We're the customer,
Sure.
and you're out dealing, I don't know what you're dealing, as far as I'm concerned, that's not how you treat your customers, as far as I'm concerned. To me, I don't know if you made a secret deal or not, I don't know, I don't think so, but it sure gives the impression that that doesn't look quite right. And again, it ain't like if Scott would gone, Bill's here, Mayor's here, somebody's here to work with you, we should have been involved in it in the first place. Now they're talking about us paying a third, for what? Because we trusted you guys, we trusted that they would do the right job.
We don't recommend the city pay any additional. That is what the
one
contractor
thing we
is
agree on then.
requesting. And that's the contractor's way of trying to make more money on a failed product, which he did not complete correctly.
So how, as our engineering company, how do you stand then? Are you gonna, so it comes down to, you're saying that we're not gonna pay anything? Is that kind,
Are you asking me if we're volunteering to pay anything?
Yeah,
I am saying, no, we are not volunteering to pay anything. I am saying the correct action is to go against the contractor's bond and make them complete the project as they signed the contract to do.
okay, so what does that cost the company then if we go against the city?
What does that cost the city?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay,
What does that cost Murray Engineering? The time we would have into it, but we've exceeded our contract amount already, so we can't charge the city anymore. It would basically just go against the contractor, and the bonding company would either entice the contractor to complete it, or the city would get paid from the bonding attorney to hire a different contractor to come in and replace the panels that need to be replaced.
typically, how long the process does this take?
I wouldn't be, yeah.
Should not be very long.
We
don't want it to go very.
We don't want it to go very long. We wanna get this wrapped up. The 2-year, maintenance bond is up in August,
Be October.
October? This fall sometime. So we wanna get this moving and get it completed before we're running up against that 2-year warranty bond.
So if we start a process now, does that stay the timeline on their bond?
I can't answer that as I'm not an attorney, but I would think if we would start the proceedings, it would at least entice the bonding company to motivate the contractor to complete this per project, per contract.
So what you're saying then, that our lawyer, city lawyer, doesn't have to do anything, you're gonna be doing this whole process,
That's correct.
and you'll be standing the legal fees if there is some or whatever that gets involved in this?
There shouldn't be any legal fees. It goes back to the bond. That was part of the original contract that the contractor signed. It says performance and maintenance bond. It says he will complete it per plans and specifications, or we have the opportunity to go and, I wanna say go against his bond. That's the incorrect terminology, but it's basically get the bonding company to pay to either fix the contractor's mistakes or get the contractor to complete the work per plans and specifications as directed by the engineer.
So Lance, I guess I'd tell you, our only other experience in dealing with the bond company was not very good. We had asked them to fix some work. The bond company sided with their client. And we got nothing out of the deal. So I guess, how do you approach that situation? You gotta give them adequate evidence of shortcoming then, or what?
That would be my suggestion, which we believe we now have going to the Iowa Paving Association. They're a statewide organization that deals in this, and they regularly testify in court which panels are bad, which panels are good. That's what they do. That is their job, is to help address these issues. And they have stated that, like I said, they've stated that there's 8 of these panels that definitely need to be replaced.
And you're saying that there's, how many
It's
more?
our opinion that there's an additional 16,
So a total of 24.
so a total of 24.
So you'll go back to their bonding agency and say there's 24 panels that need to be
Yes.
replaced, the rest need to be fixed.
Correct.
And if that doesn't happen, if the bonding company says, no, and then what?
At this point, we're still withholding $16,000 as the final payment, which I know it's only 16,000, I wish it was 60,000, but at this point, we're withholding 16,000 that you wouldn't pay. And then the city would have the opportunity of suing the contractor to complete the work that they did not complete.
I guess, and just for the council, as far as a little bit of clarification, if they talk about those 16 additional panels, that's all the panels above that storm sewer on 7th Street.
That's correct.
So when the paving association was here and they identified these other panels, it didn't include any of them above that.
They said they were not in bad enough condition to be replaced. We're saying that they replaced that storm sewer, and it's obvious that they didn't compact the pipe trench well enough, and it's creating the crack.
If I could add something, I'm Eldon Rosso, and when we looked at the trench and the cracking over that, the Iowa Concrete Paving Association did not feel it was a concrete problem. They said it was an obvious issue, but it isn't a concrete problem, it's a trench settlement problem. So they didn't address it from a concrete standpoint. And we're looking at it that it was not compacted.
I'm gonna say one more thing. I apologize that Scott didn't get invited to the meeting. The paving association said at any time, if the city or anyone else would like to meet on that, they would be happy to meet again and walk through the project and give their opinion again. We'd be more than happy to do that process all over and let them look at it again, if that would help the city feel any better.
Well, would it help having looking at the 16 panels that are, they say there wasn't a problem, we do say there's a problem.
Right, you're
So,
exactly right.
so bringing them back gives us a chance to argue with them a little bit, I guess.
That's exactly right.
So, I guess that's, I don't know what the rest of council feels, that that should be an opportunity for them to come back and have at least a couple guys there. I mean, Dave, what's your thoughts on something like that?
Well, I'm a little concerned about the timing here because, any suit under the bond must be instituted before 2 years from the date on which the final payment under the contract falls due.
We haven't made final payment. We are still withholding final payment. We're still withholding
So you sure that's
16,000.
a final payment, or is that just a withholding?
It hasn't been
Final
approved.
payment.
It was final payment hasn't been approved.
You've experienced that before where just withholding the 10% is enough
Yes.
to total the 2 years? Okay.
We haven't had any issues with that.
We
I looked
haven't-
at you on that, I don't
We haven't
know.
made the final payment, right?
We have not. Now, understand, so we retained, I think it was 5% of total payment. And we retained that as retainage, okay? When we were attempting, I think, to really deal with them in really good faith, we had identified such and such to be replaced at the time, and there was so many panels that was gonna be replaced.
Yes.
And we are withholding the amount, that 16,000, of what would have been necessary for them to replace those.
That was the original 16 panels. They said they could replace them for $1,000 a panel. So we withheld 16,000, and they said they would come back and replace them at that time. Now, under warranty. Now all of a sudden they come back and said they're not going to replace any of them without a third payment from everybody.
Well, the language says, 2 years from the date on which the final payment under the contract falls due. Not 2 years from the day that we pay them, so that's two different things, okay?
I'll take your word for that,
But, so I don't wanna play around with that 2-year period.
no, I'd rather not, I'd rather get that done and addressed and move forward with that and get this finished before the 2 years is what I'm looking for.
And that's coming up.
Yeah.
It'll be August or,
October, he said.
October was,
September, October, somewhere around there, that was when.
I don't remember the exact completion date, do you?
I get a little nervous when I don't know the statute of limitations.
Right, sure, no, I understand that.
We need an exact date.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Easy to get.
But
Just
you can
don't
call
have
the
enough
bonding
time.
attorney tomorrow and start the process.
We can, we've held off at this point because we wanted to talk to you as the council before we did that and, make sure you're on board with that before we do that, but I don't see any reason not to.
I don't know why we wouldn't be on board.
Yeah.
Right.
See, we just learned of the contractor refused the last settlement a week ago, is that right? And we couldn't make it to last week's council meeting, so this was the first opportunity we've had to talk to you. So it's only been a week since they denied any responsibility at all. So at this point, yeah, I'd say let's call tomorrow. I wanted to call last week, but we decided it was probably prudent to talk to the council first.
So we got the steps that if I'm following correctly, we start the process that we notify their bondsman. We need to get the paving company back here to relook at these
Yep, the Paving
panels.
Association.
And then that way we can show them and explain more in greater detail.
Yes.
And then, Dave, is there a third step that we need to implement pretty fast other than just get the exact date? Start the process, take another look at the panels? Is there anything else that you would
I
suggest that
think
we?
if you're contemplating suit on the bond, you better have it ready to go, because I have a feeling that, the bonding company's gonna be awfully slow to respond.
I'm sure they will.
And they're gonna let the clock tick on you. Now, who's responsible, who's doing this? Are you sending the letter, is your company sending the letter?
Normally, we would, as the engineer, would notify the bonding company tomorrow by phone and say, how do you want me to notify you? You want a registered letter? Do you want a registered letter from the city? Normally, it comes from the engineer. Would you please address this issue? That's where it would start. If they don't do something, then we have to come back to you as the city. The contract is between the contractor and the city. So we don't have the authority to do some of those items.
Do you recommend giving them so many days to respond?
I would think that we need to do it within a day or two. When I call them tomorrow morning, I want a response now. I don't wanna say, I'm gonna call the contractor in 2 weeks. If they don't, then yes. Then once we put it in writing, we need a response by a week, 10 days,
In 5 days.
5 days, 5 working days,
5 working days.
reasonable.
And you also have to declare them in default as the city's representative as owner in your letter.
If we have to write a letter, I'd like to send it to you, Dave, if you would review it. I'll be glad to do it that way.
Okay, but I want 24 hours.
Yeah.
I don't wanna get it.
No, I
4 o'clock,
understand.
it gets in my email, I don't see it, and then I'm sitting here telling the council why I couldn't get something done.
And obviously, emails don't always come through.
Obviously.
Okay.
I would add to that, as long as we're talking about you not getting the email, we did not invite the contractor in on that meeting. We went to the Iowa Concrete Paving Association and the Iowa Ready Mix Association, because I know them and I know what they do.
It's the same group of people, they work out of the same building.
I wanted them to come and tell us what it is, so that we could approach the contractor. They contacted the contractor. So it wasn't us that invited the contractor.
Move on. We need to have some.
Yeah, does this need to be do you need a motion from the council to file on the bond?
I would like to see a motion just authorizing the engineer to proceed in contacting the contractor's bonding company.
Is that the right language we need to put in there so that?
Also, second?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Bolton. Yes. Stanky.
Yes.
Mulder.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Thank you, we'll take care of it again. Hopefully it'll be settled, and next time I come back, it'll be finished.
Thank you.
We will be getting a hold of the Iowa Concrete Paving Association. Don't know how soon they can get here, but we'll push as hard as we can.
When you make contact, would you call Scott and tell him that you did talk to him?
I will do that personally.
Don't email him, call him.
I'm too old for email.
Yeah.
Give me a phone call. Then I know you got it.
All right,
I
you
know,
guys.
yeah.
Thank you.
John. Bobby.
Okay, I got a question to ask the engineer. INA developer.
Yes,
When they do that, they hire somebody to make a test. And where do they test that ground? And they should give you, the engineer, of what that test is. The exact location. Did they? Or did they just kick the dirt and say, yeah, it's okay?
they rolled, they call it test rolling. And they rolled all of the prepared surface. We had them, we paid them, your council paid them to do subsurface preparation
And testing.
and the testing. And
Okay, but where they do the test at, they should have marked exactly where that is.
it's the entire length of it.
Pick out, so, you know, up that.
The old way of doing it with nuclear densities, then we would have to shoot those with a GPS in today's market.
Yes. They didn't do
There
that?
there was no nuclear density.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, we'll move on for Drummond Hicks, wants to get paid again, pay us for number 10.
Pay estimate number 10. $293,964.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Stanky.
Yes.
Mulder.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Bolton.
Okay, the SRF.
Hey, just on that, before we go too much further, just know that Rundman Hicks has contacted our engineer to get a meeting scheduled sometime to discuss wet condition. Okay? I'm just giving you a heads up on that.
Schedule.
A meeting to discuss wet condition.
Oh.
So,
You want more time or money?
that'll be the question.
I got an idea what they're.
Okay, we want to move on to the SRF forgiveness.
Yeah, so, you know, we had received that terrific news about the SRF program forgiving $1 million of our SRF loan. So we did have our financial advisor from Piper Jaffray had him run the analysis of what that means to our rates. So the annual debt service goes down accordingly, but the thing I know everybody was really interested in is what happens to rates. So what would happen to rates is that we would still look to have that 12.5% rate increase, which would be around the first of the year again. Historically, they go into effect then on the 1st of March. So we'd have 12.5% this year, but then look to the future where you don't have any substantial rate increases after that. Then they go to 2% and consistently at 1.25. Previously, it had been 12.5% next year, and still looking at another 10% then the fall. So that was that's positive news of that. I was hoping maybe you'd have a little bit more positive. It wouldn't require such a large increase for next year, but this would be the last of the 12% rate increases then.
Okay, we want to talk about, what's that, landing on the East Shore? You're up, Bobby.
Okay, my name's Bob Carroll. I'm doing that over there, and we're getting closer on there. Any questions? I know you got questions. And Scott,
I would say I
I'll
got,
let you,
I got several things we're just gonna walk through, and
you walk through it. Any questions, I'm the one to ask.
before we get into the agreement, first I'd like to take a look at some of these plans, and there's just gonna be a few things to highlight on the plan.
Okay. Scott, I was looking at this plan when you gave that to me. I think the sewer's on the wrong side.
Yeah, now
On this
it's-
side.
This front page, I want to, just tell you that that's an old plan, but it's there in terms of concept, and the lot numbers are right. So if we ever refer to any lot numbers, I just wanted you to know where all the lot numbers are. Okay, really, that's the purpose of this front, page. Because this still proposes the 26 lots, numbered, through 13A and 13B. But take a look at the next page. Again, the dimensions of the lots, especially the end lots, may still change a little bit, but I still wanted to point out for sure that all of the lots are generally still less than that 50 feet of frontage that's required by our code. Okay, so, see that generally they're 43.5 feet wide, and that's so that as we look at that, the development agreement, that's why it would stipulate, you know, that if somebody wants to build a home, they're gonna have to buy 2 lots, and generally it would be for a duplex, so that, you know, one side's on lot A and one side's on lot B, and even though they're only 43 feet wide, it still fulfills the requirements of the code. Up into the next page, this is the layout then of utilities. And what I would start on is the outside of the road, or the pink line. The pink line is proposal for electric. Okay. Then you get to there's a blue line, and kind of looks like another pink line over there, adjacent to lots 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. Those are both the water line and the sanitary sewer line. Be very close to being in the same trench, but the sewer is quite a little bit different there, so they can be vertically offset and they can still be close in the same trench there. Look at the service lines that come off of the water and sewer mains. So both the water and sewer mains are proposed to basically be in the parking area, not in the street surface, but in the parking area there on the lake side of that road, 1A, 1B. So you get these longer service lines then. To go to those back lots, you end up under the street with long service lines to get to like lot 7A and 7B. Now, the other thing to point out on this would be out in the front ditch, and the green line out in the front ditch, and that's part of the storm sewer system now, which we'll look at the storm sewer more on the next page.